Today's a pretty important day for me. This looks delicious. Today is exactly 2 years since I got my diagnosis of EDS, and I celebrated this last year by doing a silly little montage. I guess because I have a background in art and design, I like visual things. I like being able to see my entire year, what I did in that year. But this year I wanted to do something different. A lot of people in the chronic illness community do tend to celebrate Diagnosis Day because it is a day that a lot of us have worked many years towards. Some people a surplus of like 20 years, which is insane. We feel vindicated, feel like we're not going crazy and someone's finally listened to us for once. It's a big deal for people. It took me 3 years from becoming really poorly to get my diagnosis, which in the grand scheme of things is quite good. First year of diagnosis to me was more of coming to terms with my illness. This year has been completely different. It's been a year of change, growing as an individual, getting better. I will never be better, but I am doing much better than I was a year ago. So I thought I would come on and talk to you for my 2-year anniversary of Diagnosis Day about things that I've learned this year, which are really important, and I think a lot of chronically sick people sometimes overlook these things, and that's okay because you're dealing with a lot. I just wanted to come on and remind you of some of these things because it took me a whole year to realise some of these things myself. Number one is that it is okay to ask for help. I had a life very briefly before getting sick. I went to university. I was able to go out, drink with my friends. I learned to stand on my own 2 feet, pay bills, do my own shopping and cooking, live independently, go where I wanted when I wanted to go. And to kind of have a taste of that and then have it taken away from me and felt really unjust. Having to move back home after university and seeing my peers excel, some of them getting married, some of them having families, things that I wanted to do and I wasn't able to experience because I was stuck in the confines of my bed. So it was really hard for me to come to terms with that and accept that I needed help. I would get in this cycle of trying to do everything that I could do before and burning myself out and then spending a week in bed. I wasn't recognising that I was doing that. Even though I still struggle sometimes to not be as independent, it's okay to ask for help. You've got to weigh up what's more important, your health or being able to do something by yourself. It's okay to have bad days. I used to feel guilty about spending a lot of time in bed. I used to feel like I was wasting NHS resources for going to hospital. I have this guilt of I shouldn't park there, or there's someone else who's going to need that space more than me. And it's okay to have those bad days, and it's really important to acknowledge that you're having a bad day and definitely listen to your body. I'm very lucky now that I've worked so hard on my physio and improving my symptoms that I spend a lot less time in bed. But I still recognise when I am exhausted and when I do need a sleep. Getting a second opinion is not doctor shopping. It really bothers me that I see stuff online where someone hasn't necessarily agreed with something their doctor has said and they've gone to see another specialist and they've been accused of doctor shopping until they get the diagnosis they're looking for. With conditions like this, doctors don't know everything about the condition. In fact, you probably know your body better than your specialist does. In 2016, a year before I was diagnosed, I went to see a rheumatologist. I was in her room for all of 10 minutes. I got the feeling that she wasn't really listening to what I was saying. She didn't really care that I was there and basically told me it was all in my head and I was imagining it. A year later, I could barely walk and I went to see a geneticist and they definitively said, yes, you've got EDS. It's not wrong to go and get a second opinion. You need to stop comparing yourself to other disabled people in the community. I've mentioned before that I sometimes find the chronic illness community actually quite toxic because there is this sort of comparison thing that goes on in it where people look at you and think, oh, well, you've not got a feeding tube, or you're not in a wheelchair, so you're not as bad as such and such. I don't want to overshare, but it doesn't mean that I'm not suffering as much as somebody else. And I think to sort of take away somebody else's experience by saying, well, mine is worse than yours, is actually a really toxic, damaging thing that you're doing to someone else. I had to remove myself from that community for a bit. I had to unfollow people that I was friends with because it got to me. It really bothered me, and I feel happier now not comparing myself to other people, not seeing other people's feeds and getting stressed out about what was being said, and just concentrating on my own health. I think the negativity was really affecting my mental well-being as well as my physical. Stop trying to take away from somebody else's experience. Only you can ultimately make the change. I spent a lot of time in bed after my diagnosis, an unhealthy amount of time in bed, and it was this vicious cycle of staying in bed and not using my legs, and they were deteriorating and they were wasting. And then when I would try and get out of bed, because the muscle wasn't very strong, it hurt me a lot. I was in this really vicious, awful cycle, and that plays a lot on your mental health. And I think after a while I gave up. I sort of concluded that this was how my life was going to be forever, and just sort of accepted it. I finally got a physio referral through, and it changed my aspect on things. You have to put the work in. It's bloody hard work, and the physio was painful, and it's not an easy ride, and I'm not saying it will be an easy ride, but only you can make the change. You've got to want to change. You've got to want to get better. And when I changed my outlook on things and my mentality and started working on myself and making sure that I was getting up every day, you've got to make yourself feel proud of that and reward yourself. And the last thing is probably really cliche, but this too shall pass is something that I've learned. I think before I got sick, I took things for granted. Even just being able to eat a full meal and not feel sick is something that you don't think about until you get sick, until you're unwell. I really appreciate the smaller things now, being able to go out somewhere with my boyfriend, having a really good day, waking up and having minimal symptoms. Like, I really try to live in the moment. Going to bed at the end of the night and thinking, today was a good day, is the best feeling. And even if I've hurt so bad that day, it's something small that I've been really grateful for, then it's been a good day. And even though it may feel like everything is bad right now for you, that feeling will pass, and there will be days where you feel better about yourself. The smallest accomplishments will put the biggest smile on your face. Really immerse yourself in those good moments. This year I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned how to adapt. It's been a good year, and if next year is half the year that this year has been, then I'll be happy. Here's to year 3 of diagnosis.